Welcome to Suri Cheating Story, where we share true stories of betrayal in love. Our channel brings heartfelt, real-life experiences from those who have endured the pain of infidelity. Whether you're facing challenges in your own relationship or seeking to better understand the complexities of love and trust, Suri Cheating Story is the place for you. Subscribe now to explore the emotional depths in the path to healing with us. Suri's hands trembled as she sat behind the wheel of her car, staring blankly at the windshield. Her heart raced as the events from just hours ago replayed in her mind, each moment more chaotic and regretful than the last. She had just gotten the promotion of a lifetime, a moment she had dreamed of for years. Yet everything felt hollow. The elation of success quickly dissipated as panic set in. I did something awful. I can't go to jail for this. Oh my God, what do I do? Her breath hitched in her throat, and she felt the walls close in. Her mind spiraled as she replayed the scene in her head. Adam, the man she had hit, lying unconscious in the street after she lost control of her car. It wasn't supposed to be like this. Everything had gone so wrong, so fast. Suri closed her eyes, trying to steady her racing thoughts. She had never intended for any of this to happen. She had been so wrapped up in her own world, celebrating her promotion, that she hadn't seen him in time. One moment, she was texting on her phone, trying to get in touch with friends to share her good news. The next, the jarring thud of hitting something shook her to the core. The guilt washed over her in waves. She couldn't breathe. She had hit someone. She had caused pain. Worse, she had left the scene, terrified of the consequences. How could she have been so careless? How could she have just driven away? Her mind screamed at her, telling her she was a coward, that she should have stayed, should have called for help. But instead, she had panicked. She had made a decision that went against everything she had ever believed in, running away. I'm a monster, she whispered to herself, her voice barely audible over the noise of the engine. But even as the words left her lips, she knew they weren't true. She had made a mistake, a massive one. But did that mean she was beyond redemption? The sharp memory of Adam's body lying on the pavement resurfaced. She could still see his stillness, the way he didn't move, didn't breathe. She could hear the panic in her voice as she dialed the emergency services, only to give a false account of how she found him. She had lied. She had pretended to be someone she wasn't just to stay by his side. I had to. I couldn't just leave him there, she muttered, her fingers gripping the wheel tightly. I had to be with him, make sure he was okay. But in the quiet moments, when the adrenaline began to wear off, Suri could no longer deny the truth. She had lied to the authorities. She had told them she was his wife, fabricating a bond she didn't have. Why? Because she needed to feel like she mattered. She needed to feel like she could atone for the wrong she had done. But at what cost? Her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of a knock on the car window. She jumped, startled. It was the hospital security guard. Miss, you can't stay here. You'll need to come inside. Suri stared at him for a moment, unsure of what to do. The guilt still gnawed at her, a constant reminder of her mistakes. She couldn't avoid the reality anymore. She had made her bed, and now she had to lie in it. She nodded, her eyes empty of all emotion, and stepped out of the car. The hospital lobby seemed to swallow her whole as she walked through the doors. Everything felt surreal. The fluorescent lights above buzzed softly, the sound a distant hum in her ears. Her shoes clicked against the sterile floor as she made her way toward the elevator. She didn't deserve to be here. She didn't deserve to take up space in this building when there were people who had legitimate reasons to be there. People who hadn't made mistakes, who hadn't committed such a huge error in judgment. She was just a fraud, pretending to be someone she wasn't in order to soothe her own guilt. As the elevator doors closed behind her, she squeezed her eyes shut and pressed the button for the ICU floor. What had she been thinking? How could she have done this to someone? She had no answers. She just had a sea of regrets, drowning her in uncertainty. The hospital felt different now. Each step felt heavier, the weight of her conscience bearing down on her. She couldn't escape it. She couldn't run away from her actions, no matter how much she wanted to. The moment the elevator doors opened on the ICU floor, she felt her heart skip a beat. Adam's family was there, waiting. His wife. The lie she had told was now inescapable. How long could she keep this charade up? How long could she pretend to be someone she wasn't, someone she hadn't earned the right to be? She needed to make things right, but she wasn't sure how. In that instant, Suri realized the full weight of what she had done. This wasn't just about her. This wasn't just about her promotion or her panic. This was about a man's life and the consequences of her actions. She was in too deep now. There was no going back. Suri felt a cold sweat beat on her forehead as she entered the ICU waiting room, her eyes skimming over the faces of Adam's family. His wife, the one person who should have been here, who should have been by his side. Instead, Suri had lied and put herself in this situation, pretended to be someone she wasn't, just to be near him. She had to stay. She had to be close. But now, the lie was suffocating her. She found an empty seat in the corner of the waiting room, her heart hammering against her chest. Every person in this room was a reminder of the deception she had woven around herself. His wife, Adam's real wife, was sitting on the other side of the room, her face twisted in worry, eyes red and puffy from crying. How could Suri stand there looking her in the eye, knowing she wasn't even supposed to be here? The guilt was unbearable, but what choice did she have now? The nurse had told her that Adam was stable, that he had been unconscious for days. She knew he wouldn't remember anything when he woke up. Not the accident, not her, not the lie, but still Suri couldn't shake the feeling that somehow, some way, everything was tied to her now. Everything. She had stayed with Adam through the night, watching his still body and feeling the pounding weight of responsibility. She had never felt so alone. And yet, somehow, despite the lie, despite everything she had done wrong, she couldn't walk away. She couldn't leave him alone in that sterile hospital bed. She didn't know why, but there was something in her chest, a pull, that made her want to help him, to take care of him, even though she was the one who had caused his pain. Each time she stroked his hand or brushed his hair away from his forehead, she told herself it was for him. It was for his recovery, for his well-being. But deep down, she knew that a part of her was doing this for herself too. It was her way of trying to make amends, of trying to balance out the wrong she had done. It was as if caring for him was her way of paying for the mistake, the horrible mistake that had brought them to this point. The first time Adam's eyes fluttered open, Suri held her breath, watching as he slowly came back to consciousness. His face was still pale, his lips cracked from dehydration, but there was something in his eyes, something that made her feel both relief and dread. He looked around disoriented and his gaze finally landed on her. Who are you?" he rasped, his voice barely a whisper. Suri froze. For a moment, she didn't know how to respond. The weight of the lies she had told hung heavy in the air. But before she could speak, Adam's eyes searched her face, a glimmer of recognition flickering in them. I'm Jenny. I'm your wife," Suri said, her voice shaky, as the lie spilled from her lips for the first time in front of him. She didn't even know why she said it. The words came out automatically, like they were rehearsed, like they had become her identity for the past few days. The guilt gnawed at her, but she couldn't take it back now. She couldn't backtrack. Adam stared at her for a moment, confusion clouding his expression. He didn't seem to fully understand, but his eyes softened slightly as if the familiarity of the name meant something to him. "Jenny," he repeated, trying to say the name as if it would trigger something in his memory. Suri nodded, her throat tight. "Yes, you've been in an accident, but you're going to be okay. We'll get through this. I'll be here for you." It wasn't the truth. None of it was. She wasn't his wife. She wasn't even close. She had no claim over him, no right to be standing there, pretending to be someone she wasn't. But in that moment, all she wanted to do was make him feel safe. She wanted him to know he wasn't alone. She wanted him to feel cared for, even if it meant keeping up the lie for a little longer. As the hours passed, Adam remained in and out of consciousness, his memories fragmented. Suri was there with him, by his side, tending to his needs, feeding him, making sure he stayed hydrated. She could see the confusion in his eyes when he looked at her. He was trying to piece together the fragments of his life, trying to understand how he ended up in this bed, why this stranger was claiming to be his wife. But it didn't matter, at least not right now. All that mattered was that he was alive. He was breathing. And she was here. As Suri massaged his hands trying to comfort him, she couldn't help but feel a strange connection to him. She hadn't known Adam before the accident, She didn't know anything about his life, his loves, his past, but something about the way he looked at her, as if she was his anchor in a storm of confusion, made her heart ache. She hadn't expected to feel this way. She hadn't expected to grow attached to someone she barely knew. Yet as the days dragged on, her feelings for Adam deepened. She found herself thinking about him when she wasn't there, imagining what his life was like before the accident. She wanted to know more. She wanted to understand the man lying in the bed before her. And most of all, she wanted him to know how deeply sorry she was for what she had done. But there was another layer to all of this, her growing concern. Every day she faced the possibility that Adam might remember the truth, that he might recall that she wasn't his wife, that she wasn't the person he had believed her to be. What would happen then? What would he think of her? Would he ever forgive her? She had no answers, but she couldn't stop herself from caring about him. Somehow, over the course of just a few days, her role as his caretaker had evolved into something deeper. And she knew that, whether she liked it or not, her feelings for Adam were no longer just about guilt. They were about something real, something raw. But the truth loomed over her like a dark cloud. She couldn't keep up this charade forever. Eventually, Adam would wake up fully. Eventually, he would know the truth. And when he did, would he ever look at her the same way again? The next morning, as the hospital room felt colder with each passing minute, Suri's worst fears started to take shape. Adam remained unconscious, still trapped in a haze of amnesia. But a new tension began to build around her as Detective Morris arrived at the hospital. Suri's heart sank when she saw him enter, his gaze sharp and focused. He wasn't here for small talk, and he wasn't here to offer comfort. He was here for the truth, and Suri could feel the weight of his presence like a storm cloud on the horizon. His eyes immediately scanned the room before landing on her, as if he had already made up his mind about what had happened. "Miss Anderson," Detective Morris said, his voice deep and unyielding, "I need to ask you a few more questions about the incident." Suri stiffened. She had been dreading this moment, dreading the inevitable questions that she knew would lead her to deeper trouble. She had been trying to avoid the truth, but now it seemed unavoidable. Adam's family wasn't here, and the lie she had told was the only thing holding her together. But soon it would all fall apart. "Of course," Suri replied, trying to keep her voice steady, though it quivered slightly. "What do you need to know?" The detective sat across from her, pulling out a notepad. His eyes never left her, scrutinizing her every move as if he were reading between the lines of her every word. "I've gone through the initial reports, and there's something that doesn't add up, Ms. Anderson," he began, his tone more calculating than before. Suri's stomach twisted. The air felt thicker now, as though every word the detective said was a thread unraveling the web she had carefully constructed. "The story you told about finding Mr. Pinsky on the road. Well, we've been looking into it, and there's no record of you being married to him," the detective said, his voice level but firm. "In fact, I can't find a single record of you even living with him or sharing any kind of life together. No shared apartment, no joint bank accounts, no tax filings together, nothing." Suri's breath caught in her throat. She had been prepared for questions, but not like this. She had lied so quickly, so easily about everything. How could she have overlooked such a simple, glaring detail? She scrambled to think of a response. We haven't had the paperwork done yet. We just got married recently, in Denmark. It was supposed to be a small ceremony before we filed everything here," she stammered, her voice rising in a desperate attempt to sound convincing. "It was just a private ceremony. We wanted to make it official before going through the legal steps." Detective Morris raised an eyebrow, clearly unconvinced. "Really, a wedding in Denmark? That's interesting, but I've checked. There's no official record of a marriage between you and Adam Pinsky. Not in Denmark, not anywhere else. And the neighbors, they didn't know anything about you. Ms. Anderson, no one knew you two were together, let alone married. Doesn't that strike you as strange?" Suri's pulse quickened. Her mind raced, trying to patch the lie together, trying to keep the illusion alive. We just kept it private. Adam didn't like making things public. It was personal." The detective leaned in, his eyes narrowing. "And where were you that morning, Miss Anderson? You said you found him on the road after the accident, but no one saw you. No one heard anything. No witnesses, no signs of anyone else being involved. Why is that?" Suri swallowed hard. She had never expected to be caught like this. I was just late," she said, her voice cracking. He called me earlier that morning, told me his route, and I went to meet him. But when I got there, when I saw him, he was already, I don't know, I panicked. I didn't know what to do. Detective Morris was quiet for a moment, his gaze intense as he studied her. Something doesn't sit right with me, Miss Anderson. You say you were just meeting him, but your story doesn't line up. You've given me more questions than answers. And there's one thing I want to know for sure. How exactly did Adam end up in that hospital bed? Suri's breath came out shakily. She was teetering on the edge of a cliff, trying to keep the facade together while her world was crumbling beneath her. She could feel the pressure building inside her, the fear of being found out slowly suffocating her. I didn't mean for this to happen, she whispered, the guilt weighing down on her words. I swear, I didn't mean for him to get hurt. I didn't know what else to do. I panicked. I lied, and now I'm stuck. The detective didn't say anything at first, but his eyes softened for a fraction of a second. Then he stood up, his face once again hardening into the professional mask of a man who had seen too many lies to be fooled by one. Stay where you are, Ms. Anderson. I'm going to have to dig deeper. There's a lot more to this story than you're letting on, and I'm going to find out what it is. You're not off the hook yet, he said, before turning to leave. Suri sat frozen in the chair, the reality of the situation crashing over her. She had lied. She had lied to the police, to Adam's family, to herself. And now, there was nowhere left to hide. The detective's words hung in the air like a dark cloud, a reminder that she wasn't the only one digging for answers. What would happen if the truth came out? What would Adam think of her then? Would he ever forgive her? Could she even forgive herself? The days following Detective Morris's questioning felt like a never-ending spiral of guilt and confusion for Suri. As Adam remained unconscious, she was left to face the weight of her actions. Every moment felt like an eternity, every second haunted by the secret she kept. The lie she had told about being Adam's wife, the lie that had come so easily in the chaos of the accident, was now strangling her. The truth was slowly, inevitably, clawing its way to the surface, and Suri was dreading the moment when it would all fall apart. Adam's condition remained unchanged. His family, including his actual wife, had been notified, but Suri continued to stay by his side, pretending to be the woman he was supposed to be married to. She had no idea what she was doing anymore. Was she trying to protect him, or was she simply caught in a web of her own making? It was hard to tell. Every time she looked at him, unconscious and vulnerable, she felt a deeper connection to him, something that wasn't rooted in guilt or obligation. But could this be real? Could she really care for someone she had never truly known? Or was she simply trying to redeem herself for the reckless decision she had made? One morning, Adam finally began to stir. His eyes fluttered open, and Suri's breath caught in her throat as she rushed to his side. The room was quiet, except for the faint sound of his labored breathing. Adam blinked several times, his gaze unfocused as he slowly processed his surroundings. When his eyes met hers, something shifted in the room. "Jenny?" His voice was hoarse, barely above a whisper. Suri froze. She had expected him to be confused, to be disoriented. But the way he said her name, the way he looked at her, there was something more there. Something that made her feel like a fraud. She had lied, pretending to be someone she wasn't. But in this moment, in his gaze, she saw the faintest flicker of recognition. "Yes, Adam, it's me," she replied, her voice trembling. She wanted to believe the lie, to convince herself that what they were building, this connection, was real. But the weight of her deception loomed over her, threatening to suffocate everything she felt. She wasn't his wife. She wasn't even close. Adam seemed to struggle to remember more details. His brow furrowed as he shifted slightly, wincing in pain. "What happened? Where am I?" "You're in the hospital," Suri said quickly, her voice soft. "You were in an accident, but you're going to be okay." His eyes searched hers, still unfocused, but with an underlying intensity. I don't remember anything." His voice cracked, and Suri could see the confusion in his eyes. And then it hit her. Adam didn't remember the lie. He didn't know the truth yet. For a moment she considered keeping up the charade, continuing to play the role of the devoted wife. But deep down, she knew she couldn't. This wasn't fair to him or to herself. "I'm sorry, Adam," she whispered, her eyes welling with tears. "I lied. I'm not your wife." I'm not even supposed to be here, but I care about you. I care about you so much. Adam's expression shifted. First, a flash of confusion, and then something else. Something closer to hurt. Why did you lie? I was scared, Suri replied, her voice breaking. I didn't know what to do. I made a terrible mistake, and I've been trying to fix it, trying to be here for you, because I feel responsible. But I was wrong. I shouldn't have lied. There was a long, painful silence between them. Adam's eyes drifted to the ceiling, his face contorted with a mix of confusion and betrayal. You don't have to explain everything, he said softly, his voice low. I don't know what happened, but I need the truth. We both do. Suri nodded, her heart heavy. The truth, the one she had avoided for so long, was now on the edge of her lips. And as much as she wanted to protect herself, as much as she wanted to continue the lie, she knew she couldn't. She needed to make things right for both of them. Adam, I'm so sorry, she repeated, her voice full of sincerity. I never meant for any of this to happen. I wasn't thinking. I just wanted to be here for you, to make sure you were okay. But I've been lying. I'm not your wife. I'm not even a part of your life. Adam let out a soft sigh, his eyes closing for a brief moment. When he opened them again, they seemed softer, almost understanding. I don't know what to say. Suri, I don't know what's real anymore. Suri reached out and took his hand, the warmth of his skin sending a wave of comfort through her. What's real is how we care about each other, she said gently, but I know I've messed that up. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I want to be honest with you. I just want to help you, help us. Adam's grip tightened slightly, as though he was still trying to piece everything together. I don't know if I can trust you again, but thank you for telling me the truth. Suri swallowed hard, the weight of her own admission settling in her chest. There was a long road ahead, and the consequences of her actions hadn't even begun to unfold. But in this moment, there was a sense of clarity. She had faced the truth, and that was the first step toward redemption. Suri spent the next few days at Adam's side, her heart heavy with the knowledge that her actions couldn't be easily undone. The truth was out, and while she had come clean to him about the lie she had told, the weight of the past still hung between them like an invisible barrier. She could see it in his eyes, the subtle distrust, the wariness that lingered despite his initial words of forgiveness. She had crossed a line, and no matter how much she wished she could erase what had been done, she knew it wasn't that simple, but she wasn't about to give up. Suri knew she couldn't just walk away from the mess she had created. The guilt was too much to bear, and the desire to make things right, to heal the damage she had caused, was overwhelming. Every moment spent caring for Adam felt like a small step toward redemption, but deep down, she understood that actions spoke louder than words. Saying she was sorry wasn't enough. She had to prove it. Suri stayed by his side as much as she could, helping with his recovery, doing everything she could to make amends. She arranged for his physical therapy, made sure he was comfortable, and sat with him through long, quiet hours when the loneliness of his injury seemed to consume him. She could see the struggle in his eyes, the way he tried to piece together the fragments of his memory. And though he didn't fully trust her yet, he didn't push her away. Perhaps he was willing to give her a chance, or perhaps it was simply that he had no one else. Either way, Suri was determined to prove herself worthy of that chance. But as the days passed, Suri began to feel the weight of her actions more acutely. She couldn't ignore the reality that her past mistakes might always be a part of her, a permanent stain on the woman she wanted to be. Every time Adam looked at her, there was a flicker of doubt in his eyes, a subtle reminder that the foundation of their relationship had been built on lies. She knew he was trying to forgive her, trying to rebuild some semblance of trust. But could they ever truly move forward? Could she ever make up for what she had done? The truth was, no matter how hard she worked, no matter how much she tried to atone for her mistake, there were some things that couldn't be undone. The lies would always be there, lurking in the shadows, reminding her of her flaws, of the person she had been. But Suri also realized that she couldn't live in the past forever. She couldn't keep beating herself up for the mistakes she had made. All she could do now was take responsibility for them, learn from them, and move forward, one step at a time. One evening, as they sat together in the dimly lit hospital room, Suri looked at Adam and saw something in his eyes that hadn't been there before. a softness, a flicker of understanding. He hadn't forgiven her completely, and maybe he never would. But in that moment, she saw that he was willing to try. And for Suri, that was enough. She had no illusions about erasing the past, but maybe, just maybe, there was a way to build something new from the ashes of the lies she had told. Adam, Suri said, her voice steady but full of emotion. I know I can't undo the damage I've caused. I know I've hurt you, and I'll never be able to make up for it. But I want you to know that I'm here. I'm here for you, and I'll be here for as long as you need me. I don't expect forgiveness, but I will keep trying. Adam looked at her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then slowly, he nodded. I don't know what comes next, Suri, he said quietly, but I'm willing to figure it out. Together, if that's what you want, say. In that moment, Suri realized that redemption wasn't about being perfect. It wasn't about erasing the past or pretending like the mistakes never happened. It was about taking responsibility, owning the truth, and trying to move forward with honesty and integrity. No one could change the past, but maybe they could build a future, one step at a time. As the weeks passed, Suri continued to show Adam that her actions were sincere. She stayed by his side, supporting his recovery every step of the way, and slowly the bond between them began to strengthen. Adam, though still grappling with his memory loss and the confusion of the accident, started to see her for who she truly was. Not just the woman who had lied, but the woman who had stayed, who had worked tirelessly to make things right. One afternoon, as they sat together in the hospital garden, Adam took Suri's hand in his. You've been here for me, even when I didn't deserve it, he said, his voice soft but filled with conviction. I can't promise that everything will be easy, but I can promise that I'll try. We'll take this one day at a time. Suri's heart swelled with gratitude. She had spent so long feeling like she had no place in his life, but now it felt like they were starting to build something real, something based on truth, forgiveness, and second chances. The journey wasn't over, but for the first time, Suri felt hopeful about the future. Together they would heal, move forward, and create a new beginning. And for Suri, that was enough. It wasn't the perfect ending, but it was the right one, the one they would shape together. If you find this story interesting and want to see more touching, tense, but meaningful situations, don't forget to subscribe to our channel today. Leave a comment with your thoughts. Share this story with your friends and remember to like the video so we can stay motivated to bring you more great and meaningful content. Thank you for watching and supporting us.